Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We've got a big show this week with 3 brand new reviews, with 2 playing in theaters and 1 now available to stream. This week on the show, sometimes to survive, you must become more than you were programmed to be in The Wild Robot. Have you ever dreamed of a better version of yourself if you followed the instructions? What could go wrong in The Substance? And finally, Rosemary wasn't the first of this prequel to the 1968 classic, Rosemary's Baby, comes Apartment 7A, that's streaming on Paramount Plus right now. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, what? A roar and a burst of flame.
The Movie Wire podcast.
You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
After an accident, an intelligent robot called Roz is stranded on an uninhabited island. To survive the harsh environment, Roz bonds with the island's animals and cares for an orphaned baby goose in DreamWorks Animation's The Wild Robot.
Incident report. At 0300 hours, a number of Universal Dynamics robots were lost in a typhoon. Chance of recovery is unlikely.
Do you need assistance? Aggression detected. I see your problem. Processing language.
You need to learn how things work on this island.
Hello.
Goslings imprint on the first thing they see. Which would be you? You're his mother now.
I do not have the programming.
No one does. He needs to swim and fly.
Swimming's easy. I can teach him the way my mom taught me. Swim! He's a runt. His chances aren't super good.
I will protect him. He's got to leave this island by fall.
Right, Bill?
It is more dangerous for him than anyone else. But he has a chance. If where his wings end, his heart can pay the balance.
You were not easy to find. You are defective. I feel fine. You should not feel anything at all.
Mom?
No! Sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be. I will protect all of you.
You are ordered to return home.
I am already home, and I am a wild robot.
Based on the books by Peter Brown, DreamWorks Animation has finally brought an animated film with not only value and substance, but a film that has so many underlying messages that anyone from child to adult could understand and relate to. An animated movie that has been missing from current generations. Also, an animated movie that finally will stay current with outstanding visuals and messaging that we will treat as we do old-fashioned Disney movies that had meaning, emotion, and story. The Wild Robot emerges as a refreshing and heartwarming tale that transcends age and genre. Directed by Chris Sanders with a knack of storytelling a family connection with his previous directorial credits that involve Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, The Croods, and Call of the Wild. This adaptation of Peter Brown's beloved children's book invites viewers into a world where nature and technology coexist in harmony, with its stunning animation, poignant themes, and relatable characters. The Wild Robot is not just a film for children, it's a celebration of life, resilience, and the power of connection, and we feel that as an audience. The most powerful thing about The Wild Robot is that it proves that entertainment value and substance can coexist in animated films that can target both youth and adult without relying on toys, toilet humor, pop culture references. It brings families' eyes to the screen with pure innocence, relatability, and characters we want to follow, and we want to see the outcome at the very end. There has been a plethora of animated and family films in the last couple of years, and the closest we got to something with substance and relatability was Inside Out 2, a sequel. In a recent appearance on the Talking Smack podcast, I went on a rant that showed my frustration that it baffles me that we are getting so many animated movies that solely bank on characters that merely just do things on screen, but add nothing of value or substance, but just has that familiarity that attempts to impersonate relatability. But by the time the credits roll on those films, it's just the same old characters with no development doing a different scenario. They're just merely doing things on screen and adding nothing of value. It's almost like a circus attraction. As a kid, I remember going to the circus, but I don't remember much of the show. That's exactly what animated movies have become. The Wild Robot is no circus attraction and proves a point that to be relevant in one's growing memory, there needs to be a connection of an emotion and relatability. The Wild Robot succeeds both of these requirements, where even a single movement of our main robot Roz, voiced by Lupita Nyong'o, stayed with me. The Wild Robot story is a simplistic foundation as the original source material, but the themes can be complex. But the brilliant writing of our director Chris Sanders truly understands the source material as if talking to a child. This is flawless execution of storytelling when it comes to an animated film. This story follows Roz, a robot intended as a fully automated robot targeted for households, as we see so many AI devices now in the home. After an accident, Roz is stranded in the wild, having to adjust into this new world and environment. While discovering this new environment, another accident happens where Roz must learn to care for a baby goose called Brightbill, voiced by Kit Connor. But Roz can't raise a goose and adjust in the environment alone. That's where Fink, a fox voiced by Pedro Pascal, joins them in their journey of personal growth that none of them expected. Each and every one of these characters show a pitch-perfect example of growth. Roz's journey is one of resilience as she navigates the challenges of survival in the wild. She encounters obstacles that test her strength and adaptability. This theme of perseverance is inspiring, reminding viewers of the importance of facing challenges head-on, regardless of the odds. Her determination to learn from her surroundings and adapt to her new home serves as a powerful metaphor for the resilience we all possess. But even more so, this is a powerful metaphor to raising kids as a parent figure, going into a situation knowing nothing and using our instincts and our adaptability to care for another species. But that's just one piece of the messaging. This is also a film just not about our robot. Each character here shows traits of personal growth, utilizing Brightbill as a symbolic driving force. Even our clever manipulating fox shows a level of moral growth and personal responsibility that comes with growing with another living species. Now, as I just mentioned some memorable subtle moments in The Wild Robot, there is a moment that is so subtle but powerful that touched me more than any line of dialogue can deliver. It's a single shot of Roz, who simply looks at her robot collarbone where our young goose Brightbill used to nuzzle. It is a quick shot, but it's a powerful, memorable, it's impossible to miss. This is a shot that will be indented into my memory as a proper use of storytelling in an animated film. It's a proper use of animation to really capture that emotional element. When we use animation in film, a lot of these small, subtle moments go overlooked. And that's where we take away the emotional element from these films, is we don't really get a moment with a character. Here in The Wild Robot, we get so many of these simplistic shots that really open up this character, that really opens up the emotional element. They don't take these characters or these shots for granted. They are well utilized to really grow that feeling and connection to the audience. Now, what was really a breath of fresh air when it comes to The Wild Robot is that the filmmakers didn't feel the need to force feed emotional moments, but rather they earn it by taking us this journey of growth, where we are gradually getting to know these characters and they are getting to know each other, and we get to see the growth and adaptation to different surroundings and obstacles. There is nothing here that feels like forced emotion or too cliche. This is also another reason how The Wild Robot sets itself apart from many animated films, is the emotional depth. The story is interwoven with moments of humor, sadness, and joy, creating a rich emotional landscape that resonates with viewers of all ages. The bond between Roz and Brightbill and even Fink is particularly moving, showcasing the transformation power of love and care. The film never shies away from exploring the themes of loss and grief, portraying the realities of life in the wild. These moments are handled with sensitivity, providing a realistic backdrop that enhances the emotional stakes. We legitimately care for these characters, even an emotionless robot that we grow to really root for. The last time we had an emotional attachment to a robot was in The Iron Giant, and some may argue it may be Wall-E, but that was more of a cutesy character. But the difference here, amidst the heartache, there is always a sense of hope underscoring the resilience of life. There is a power here from our writer-director Chris Sanders on how to write emotion and how to express it in unison with visuals. It is truly a beautiful thing to experience on the big screen. The way Chris Sanders directs the beautiful visuals to the big screen and merges it not just for show, but to support of our characters' actions and emotions. Sanders has raised the bar for animated films, and I really hope that this sets the standards for animated movies going forward. That's not to say that all current animated movies are bad, but the point's been proven, especially in the last couple of years, that animated movies are at their strongest when there's something more than familiarity on the screen. It's relatability that wins the hearts of viewers. The Wild Robot is a testament to the power of animated storytelling, reminding us that even in a world dominated by technology, there is still room for compassion, connection, and understanding. Whether you're watching it as a family, with friends, or solo, The Wild Robot is sure to leave you with a sense of wonder and renewed appreciation for the beauty of life, but also a film that makes us look at the world we live in and how we treat each other. It's a film that not only will linger in your head, but also in your heart long after the credits roll. A perfect addition to the pantheon of animated classics. The Wild Robot is something that has been desperately missing from animated movies, and I hope this is the movie to hold the torch to shine the light for studios on how to make a movie that will impact children's memories and bring tears to parents and the children that see this movie at a young age, that grow up and show it to their kids, and as they get older will understand the relevance to why their parents were all choked up. This movie is the utter definition of a movie that will stay with us from youth to old age. The Wild Robot is this generation's emotional Lion King, and this time DreamWorks Animation created it. Not only is this one of the best animated films of the last decade, but it's one of the best heartfelt emotional journeys an audience will take in the last decade. And not only that, but it is also... Where the hell's my button? Oh, here it is.
We got one!
Not only that, but it is one of the best movies of the year. I'm giving The Wild Robot 4 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
Everybody deserves a happy ending, and Deadpool and Wolverine, that was one of the biggest, surprising, and audience-fueled experiences of the summer, receiving 3.5 stars. The Things Left Unspoken Can't Kill You, and I won't speak to the repetitive formula because I can hear the well-executed pacing and performances in Hear No Evil, which received 3 stars. Love Hurts and the Devil's in the Details, and Strange Darling, which had a twist that may have come too early, but still a refreshing take on the tale of a serial killer that landed a killer 3 stars. True Love Never Dies, but this movie should, and the remake to the Brandon Lee classic comes The Crow, which flew south really quick, and hopefully it stays the there, receiving 1.5 stars. Meet Aya, she's an AI here to help in Afraid, but she couldn't help me end the movie quicker, and I'm afraid for anybody that wastes their money on this movie, receiving 1.5 stars. Alexa, block Afraid.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
God fucking damn it. Fear It's Calling, Cuckoo, where at times it's cuckoo good and other times it's just cuckoo, receiving 2.5 stars. M. Night Shyamalan brings us into another one of his traps of storytelling in Trap, that trapped in 1.5 stars. A revenge story that we have all seen before, only this time it's around skincare that will make you want to put on a face mask, cucumbers and all, to avoid watching this movie in Skincare, that received 2 stars. One of the biggest box office bombs of the year, and rightfully so, is Borderlands, that really was Borland, receiving 1.5 stars. Nicolas Cage plays a serial killer in this haunting film that reminds us once again of how good of an actor Nicolas Cage is in Long Legs, which received 3 stars. Everything he draws is about to get real in Harold and the Purple Crayon, that will make you wish you had an eraser, receiving 1 star. Then finally, Every Murder Lives On in Oddity, which scared the surprise out of me, receiving 3.5 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, where Antonio and I cover some of Siskel and Ebert's most interesting, shocking, and entertaining film reviews and discuss if it holds up or if they get it wrong. Back to the Balcony is now available on all podcast listening platforms and YouTube right now. The link to that show will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Back to the Balcony now.
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert, 2 titans of cinematic review. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but always captivating. Your hosts Antonio of the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and Justin Henson of the Movie Wire are here to take you back to the balcony.
I really don't do reviews, but for me it's more about like, hey everyone, these films exist.
When we go into Siskel and Ebert, we're not always going to agree with Siskel and Ebert, but, there's some aspects we may.
And I think with each episode we're going to understand these guys a lot more than we think we have in all the decades that we've been reading their stuff.
The Balcony debuts Tuesday, January 2nd on YouTube and your favorite podcasting platform. Join us.
A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself in The Substance.
People always ask for something new. It's inevitable. At 50, well, it stops.
Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect. One single injection unlocks your DNA and will release another version of yourself. This is The Substance.
I'm Sue.
You're hired.
Let's go.
A perfect balance of 7 days each. The one and only thing not to forget. You are one. You can't escape from yourself.
There's
been a slight misuse of the substance.
This balance is not working!
Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop?
I'm fine. Everything's fine. You have to
Control yourself! Old, fat, disgusting.
People are gonna love that.
You know, there is a lot to respect about The Substance, even at its highest level of insanity. The one thing that won't be in question walking out of The Substance is how ambitious this is. It attempts to throw everything but the kitchen sink into what it wants to be, but at the same time ensures every T is crossed and every I is dotted when it comes to messaging. And at times it works, and other times it feels drawn out. There were numerous times where I felt this film could have ended to a proper climax within the last 45 minutes, and it would have given me the same feeling of the message has been landed and landed well. But the movie is so obsessed with overdoing itself that it becomes a little too in your face when it comes to beating the messaging in. But during my second viewing, I see our sleazy over-the-top producer Harvey, played by Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid's performance, even though brief, is a foundation to what this movie is attempting to do. Now, during my first viewing, let me be clear here, I didn't dislike The Substance. I actually really did enjoy the obscure, creative, and at times extremely stylish way it went about keeping me engaged. But it wasn't until my second viewing that I appreciated what our writer-director Corley Farghee was really trying to create. And that's not to say that I changed my mind about the last 30-45 minutes of the film, because it didn't. But this is where it's a double-edged sword for me. Even though the last act to me felt out of place and it feels to overpower the messaging, almost like a King Kong climax of messaging on steroids, it's still undeniably fun to watch, sometimes extremely gross and over the top, but fun. With this movie having a ton of grotesque images, never once in the movie do we ask if that was really necessary. Farghee really puts in the imaging to really show the overlaying theme of ugliness and obsession and addiction. The Substance stars Demi Moore in one of the best performances of the year as Elizabeth Sparkle, a celebrity that has banked on her physical appearance and energy for her stardom. Elizabeth starts to begin her age creep up on her and her TV shows start to degrade. To stay relevant, she reluctantly decides to try a new drug to promise to create a younger version of herself. But once you start, there's no going back. Elizabeth then creates an alter self, Sue, played brilliantly by Margaret Qualley, who I praised in this year's Drive Away Dolls. And here again, a very top-notch performance as we saw in Drive Away Dolls. As we get to the midway point of the film, this is where it actually creates a brilliant re-imaging of Jekyll and Hyde, where we get a good crescendo and pacing to lead to each version of Elizabeth and how it affects each other's lives, and the results of each one's actions has on another. This becomes the biggest hook or biggest attraction to this movie, which is the topic of obsession, whether that being of youth or fame or both, and keeping and holding on to this at whatever cost. Even more so, branching off the obsession theme, which can lead to addiction. We can see the messaging around obsession and addiction in a simplistic way, but what The Substance does is prove that a writer-director can take even the simplistic message and turn it into a memorable entry, and that's where Corley Farghee shows her true skill. Even with my own individual taste of the last act, I can't discredit the director or the writer for it because of the intent of what she's doing. She's leaving an exclamation mark to really ensure this movie becomes a discussion piece. So because of that, it's only fair that I look at this movie as the intent and execution of vision. With Farghee, there's no doubt in my mind that she had a holistic vision, but she also had a vision for each and every shot. For a new director with mainly 2017's Revenge under her belt, her natural eye shines through this movie. And this is going to be a writer-director that's going to be one to watch. Farghee has grown in the last 7 years with limited projects under her belt, and even though I enjoyed 2017's Revenge, this is a whole new ball game for her. She makes this kind of storytelling look easy. Fargy's screenplay is engaging enough to not just rely on the gross out factor, but does add a level of intrigue. My biggest complaint that I have with getting the Jekyll and Hyde vibe from it is that it could have really used a character to balance out the stakes instead of relying completely on our two Elizabeths. Almost like a supporting, contradicting character that we got from Jekyll and Hyde, like a Mr. Utterson. And I think that's what was really missing for me, is the contradicting character that was really strong, like an Utterson was to Jekyll. An Utterson character might not have amplified the already well-done pacing, but it might have added to the care for our Elizabeth character instead of just banking on the concept of addiction and obsession. It would have also given us a stronger perspective of the why she was famous by integrating a side character to help show the relevance in the world, instead of force-feeding us a limited character like our Dennis Quaid gross-out producer to show the ugliness, and also integrating clips of the TV show that went out of style. This would have added a layer of depth to Demi Moore's portrayal. And as I got out of my second viewing, I also thought more of this. I also thought to a pivotal moment that I won't give away in the film. As Elizabeth faces the consequences of her creation, the film misses a great opportunity in the confrontation that challenges the very nature of human emotion. It's a moment that could have sparked examples of reflection, leaving viewers pondering the implications of the choices made by our Elizabeth character. But when we get to the confrontation of the conflict, we could have used more screen time where Elizabeth has to confront her inner demons, if you will. We have an absolutely brilliant build, but we don't get enough screen time here to really address the confrontation of the conflict, to do justice to our two characters that we've already invested time with. In no way are these characters bad, but we really needed some teamwork here to really take them up a notch. And again, by doing this and spending a little bit more time, this really could have amplified and again given more layers of depth to these performances. This is the moment where the movie reminded me of Barbarian, where it almost felt like two separate movies, where we have this engaging, fun script, but as the movie goes on, it loses lines of dialogue and tries to prove the point from actions and visuals. The Substance is and will be a film that will be in numerous conversations. My only disappointment and fear with this movie is the conversation will be surrounded by what we saw instead of what we took away. Fargy has created something here that is fun, entertaining, intriguing to watch, and showcases her talents as a director. But that can also be her downfall. She starts on a high note, especially with the presentation of messaging, and kept me wanting more. But I didn't get what I was hoping for by the end. And I want to be clear. In no way was The Substance a disappointing way to spend your time or money. The Substance has me torn. The pure entertainment value, performances, visual, intentional ugliness, and intrigue makes this movie that I would want to watch over and over again. But at the same time, it feels like it's missing a little bit more of what it could have been. It's a subtle thing that separates this from being a good movie to a great movie. I know after a rewatch is one of two things will happen. One, that feeling of me missing something will grow, or two, my appreciation for it as it stands will grow even more. Only time will tell. But as it stands now, this is still a must-watch on just the pure insanity and uniqueness of it, and the mere fact it will have your eyes glued to the screen. I'm giving The Substance a strong 3 stars. Rosemary wasn't the first. A struggling young dancer finds herself drawn in by dark forces when a particular well-connected older couple promises her shot at fame, but soon realizes that the devil was in the details in the Paramount Plus prequel to the 1968 Rosemary's Baby Comes Apartment 7A.
I came here for one reason. To make something of myself. To be on stage. To see my name in big lights. But dreams don't always come true.
You know, when we found you...
Whoa!
You lost, honey? You were kind of a mess.
We want to help.
The place is yours if you want it.
Terry, you don't even know these people. Look, moving into my own place feels like a first step. I think this belonged to your old tenant.
She skipped out of here like Cinderella at midnight.
Show me. Again.
Being on stage isn't worth this.
What's the holdup, dear?
Can you just leave, please?
Maybe I shouldn't have bothered. Every single thing handed to you on a silver platter.
There's something wrong with these people. I think something happened to the girl who lived here before me.
They did ungodly things to her. And now they've chosen you.
What do you mean? I need to know what's happening to me.
We can give you everything. The name up in big lights.
This is so much bigger than me, and I can't run from it.
This is a role you were born to play. Baby's here to stay.
When I heard about Apartment 7A, a prequel to the iconic Rosemary's Baby, I was hoping, and again, loosely hoping, for a spine-chilling horror flick that would have me sleeping with the lights on. A creative prequel to expand the lore. Instead, what I got was a movie that had me cringing more than squirming in my seat. Directed by Natalie Erica James and starring Julia Gardner, Diane Weist, and Kevin McNally. Apartment 7A is a horror movie that tries so hard to be scary that if you replace the sinister background score with an upbeat cartoonish score, it would be equally effective. Only the cartoonish score would have added a new level of entertainment. Now, prequels to horror films, especially ones so beloved like Rosemary's Baby, have a responsibility to the fan base to give an origin of the characters that drove the original film to success, to add almost something as an extension to the standalone film, and even adding some value to the original. But sadly, Apartment 7A doesn't have much as a companion piece of the 1968 classic, but rather more of the same ideology and comes across as a cheap attempt to just modernize the original versus helping to extend the original. This go-around, Julia Gardner plays Terry, who inhabits Apartment 7A before our Rosemary, originally played by Mia Farrow. Terry dreams of having her name up in lights, but an accident prevents her from reaching her true potential. This is where returning characters Minnie and Roman swoop in, played by Diane Weist and Kevin McNally, originally played by Ruth Gordon and Sidney Blackmer. With Terry living alone in the apartment without a boyfriend or husband, this opens up possibilities to more interesting interactions between the rest of the cast. This is what was one of the more special aspects of the original, which is to have the characters and the performances keep you guessing. In the original, there was a nice balance of normality from the character portrayals, where in the original it didn't seem like the characters were always keeping a secret and the audience was in on the secret. Here, our writing team that consists of our director Natalie Erica James and writer Christian White and our Roman character Kevin McNally have two roads to take. Give us something unique from our returning characters Roman and Minnie, or take the easy road and give us exactly the same concept. And when it comes to Apartment 7A, our writing team does take the easy route here and gives us more of the same story outline that we got from the original movie. But here, our Minnie and Roman character, when on screen, tend to be more about letting the audience in on the secret. We get creepy stares, hostile bursts of dialogue. The normality we saw in the original isn't present here. Our writers assume that viewers already know the outcome from Rosemary's Baby, so they just integrate that into the film, along with familiar objects, placements, and Easter eggs that nods the original film. Apartment 7A really does give a lot of hints at ideas where the movie could have gone, but it always cuts itself short. The dialogue in Apartment 7A is a goldmine of unintentional comedy. Lines like, "You're the chosen one, Terry, and we must complete the ritual." So cliche! And they are delivered with the utmost confidence that you can't help but giggle. Our multiple antagonists' attempts to be menacing are undermined by their ridiculous lines, making them sound more like cartoon villains than members of a sinister cult. This is the main contributing factor that gives us the lack of scare factor or tension build. By doing this strategy, it just turns this into another generic fan film with no value or anything to add to the lore. Thank God for Diane Weiss's performance as Minnie, though a slightly different take on Ruth Gordon's portrayal. It is an incredibly entertaining and engaging performance that is worth watching this movie just for Weiss. By watching Diane Weiss, by the time we get to the climax, this made me really think that this movie could have gone the direction of just a Minnie and Roman movie, a prequel of these two, because these are the most entertaining pieces of the movie. Between Diane Weiss and McNally, those are the two biggest stars of the film. Well, there's those two in the actual production design by Dog Soldier and Quiet Place Day One designer Simon Bowles. This movie absolutely looks fantastic with the old Hollywood type feel. Our director Natalie James knows how to work the camera around this environment to really show appreciation for this old time feeling. The set never feels underworked but incorporated into the story. The technical aspects, including the music, does make this film stand out to help balance the lack of story and the lack of intense moments. The environment by itself creates something that of value, but the music score could have gone further. Apartment 7A tries to build tension with eerie music that is just underutilized, and where it seems to really utilize this music is just at the right moment where we crank the volume up just at the right time to ensure a sudden jump scare. But they're so predictable that you can see all the scares coming. That's what I hate about these written characters, and we see this time and time again. We have these characters that always seem like they have a look and feel anytime they're on screen, where there's a look or a line of dialogue that we know a scare is coming. This is where the music can play a pivotal role in helping to balance these characters out. Utilize the music properly, where instead of just hearing this music, having this music build, and relying on the score to incorporate into the environment, it's just being utilized to help with the cranking of the volume to just the right moment to a pivotal scare. Audiences are smarter than that now, where they can see this coming. A pivotal scene that we have where we have the underutilization of music. We have a scene where Terry auditions for a show and is forced to repeat a move that injured her foot. This scene is supposed to be intense, but instead it ends up being just a generic slapstick routine. At one point, I almost expected a laugh track to overpower the music as she falls. This is a moment where the music could have been properly used to help build not only our character Terry's frustration, but also added a new level of tension. Apartment 7A is a prequel that makes sense for streaming. It's generic, you don't really need to pay attention to what's going on after you get the idea of what's happening, and those that watch it without any knowledge probably won't realize it's a Rosemary's Baby prequel. The main positive that I can take from this film is those that do know it's a prequel will hopefully go out and seek out the 1968 original to see a much better movie. For a movie about Satan worshippers, they really are very smart if they're doing the same damn thing by the time the second movie happens. I'm giving Apartment 7A 2 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Goodbye, see you later. It's time to take flight. The movie wire's wrapping up, but we brought the hype. From robots in the wild, a classic unfolds, to a crazy journey in madness so bold. Thank you for tuning in, just like a VIP. This is the Movie Wire, where the films run free. Catch us next week, don't miss a beat. Until then, keep it cinematic, stay on your feet. The prequel disappoints apartment 7A. Tries to capture magic but loses its way. Yet we cherish the wild, the substance, the thrill. Join us next week where the reviews get their fill. Reflecting on stories, and we've loved them all. Thank you for tuning in, just like a VIP. This is the Movie Wire, where the films run free. Catch us next week, don't miss a beat. Until then, keep it cinematic, stay on your feet. Reflecting on stories, and we love them all.
Oh, bullshit.
Thank you for tuning in, just like a VIP. This is the Movie Wire, where the films run free. Catch us next week. So here's to the films that spark our delight. Join us next time as we take our flight.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
As the credits roll, we say farewell. Join us next time, we'll have more tales to tell.